This is a calling to all children of the earth, people of the light. I call to the sacred rainbow, 7 colors, the full spectrum of light that we experience as a soul in this dimension. With light, with life, with love, did we come here. May we remember and recognize one another as luminous beings, radiant beings, now and forevermore.
time another version of yourself is awaiting your calling. Upon stone walls this was already written. Please remember that portals are opening. Here and now in this moment of no time, all the hearts of our ancestors rise. This is a calling to all of my solar warriors, warriors of the rainbow, rise and shed your heart's disguise. Rainbow warriors, rainbow warriors, rainbow warriors, rainbow warriors. This is a calling to all of my peaceful warriors. Rainbow warriors. One people, one love, one medicine warriors. Rainbow warriors. All our existences on so many planes I call to now. All our existences on so many planes I call to now. Awaken now. All our existences on so many planes I call to now. Awaken now. All our existences on so many planes I call to now. Awaken now. Rainbow warrior. You rainbow warrior. One people, one love, rainbow warrior. This is a calling to all of my rainbow warriors. Peaceful warriors, solar warriors, rainbow warriors. Rainbow warriors. Rainbow warriors. Rainbow warriors. I want to break this down now with a prayer for all sentient beings to awaken the bodhicitta, the awakened heart, the compassionate heart, the enlightened heart. May the precious bodhicitta arise where it has not yet arisen. And where it has already arisen, may it never diminish and only expand forevermore. Remember, all of these were rainbow people. You hold the key. Remember, all of these were rainbow people. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu
Welcome to another presentation of the Globe Sound Healing Conference. Today we have Madhu. Hi, Madhu.
Hi, David.
Madhu Anziani is a sound healer extraordinaire and spiritual mentor who learned from the first-hand experience of being paralyzed as a quadriplegic. Using sound energy healing, Madhu completely recovered. His story is featured in the book Energy Medicine by Jill Blakeway. Madhu's voice is otherworldly. He has studied jazz and world music and is certified in sound, voice, and music healing from CIIS. As a mentor, he offers a curriculum of techniques and guidance for opening the healing power of the voice. He teaches from a cross-cultural lens, blending Sanskrit, Tibetan, and Hebrew chanting with wisdom, healing, qigong, and the Pachacuti Mesa tradition of ancestral Peruvian healing arts. He's also initiated as a diviner in the West African Tagara tradition. What have you been up to lately?
Well, when I hear you read all those words, I'm like, wow, that sounds complicated. And it's, it's like it's being a multidimensional being, and, being a student, being a teacher, and carrying the medicine that really so many of the world's traditions are unified, and it just comes through different expressions. And so I find myself walking through this life moment by moment, just seeing what each moment calls for and how to walk this life as a vibrational being.
Right. Nice, nice, excellent. Well, let me ask you a question I've asked everybody, and that is, if you had all the money in the world, what would you do to help people on the planet?
This question, it really touches me because I think of children first, and I think of food, water,
Right.
and shelter.
Nice.
And I imagine that there's technologies that exist on the planet right now that enable us to have clean water, clean air, shelter, and food, growing trees, and also balancing our climate in the sense that there's technologies that exist that can produce rain pretty easily. And I'm living in California, and there's a lot of fires that happen every year, and the fires seem to be getting worse. And where are those technologies at? So I would put all the money in the world to creating that level of harmony and balance.
Cool. I always say, if anybody's suffering, we're all suffering.
Yes, so says the Buddha.
Right, right, exactly. Great. So tell us about your presentation.
Well, I've been really contemplating what can I offer for this community, the sound healing community. And I wanted to share my story. As you mentioned, I healed from quadriplegia using sound and energy healing. And I want to share a little bit about that. And it's a very deep story, because it's multi-layered. I have told that story a number of times now. The injury happened in 2009. So over the years, I've gotten opportunities to share this, and I share about the miraculous recovery that I experienced. But there's also another side of the story, the more mystical side of the story, which I rarely share. And I feel like I'm supposed to share that with this community.
Excellent.
So we'll start there and see how far along I get into the sharing.
Excellent. Perfect. Go ahead.
So, in 2009, I was studying music. I was at San Francisco State University in a world music program, studying jazz music and world music. And I was exposed to many different sounds, many different traditions, Eastern traditions. And I was exposed to classical Indian music and learned the vocal system of sargam, and exposed to Turkish music, Middle Eastern music, Afro-Cuban music, and got to learn a little bit and play in some ensembles. And at the same time, I also took a number of classes in holistic health, Eastern perspectives of holistic health, Western perspectives of holistic health, and integrative medicine. It was, and still is, an exceptional program at San Francisco State. And at a certain point, I realized I wanted to blend what I was learning about healing with all the music I was learning, and boosting my skills as a guitarist. I was learning how to really shred up and down the neck and play really fast jazz licks and be thinking a mile a minute of what notes to play and how to lead into the next note. And I loved it. And at the same time, I felt like, well, this feels a little bit chaotic. So many things happening all at once. As fun as it is, I really wanted to learn about music as a healing modality. And so by my last semester, I just started researching sound healing. And I discovered Jonathan Goldman, and I ordered one of his books and began listening to sound healing music for the first time and feeling the impact that it was having on me. I also first heard of binaural beats and began listening to binaural beat frequencies and feeling what it actually feels like to meditate. And I noticed things happening during this time. One is that my memory improved. I found that it was easier for me to retain information than I was reading. And throughout my life, that was difficult for me. And then all of a sudden, I'm remembering things that I'm reading. So that's one level of the experience I was having. But I'll also share that during this time, I began practicing a particular type of meditation, a practice that my grandmother had shown me in her life. She was a really advanced being. I'm really fortunate that I had a grandmother who was a meditator and quite the mystic. By the time I was in high school, I finally got curious enough to ask her if she could show me how to meditate. And I remember sitting on the couch with her, and she actually held my hand, and we breathed together. And I'll never forget that feeling of holding an elder's hand and going into this deep state of focus and relaxation. And there were times when I would hear her in the other room making a sound, and she would be going, over and over and over again. And I was young and I thought it was funny. But there was a certain point after my grandmother passed away that I inherited her book collection, and I also found a cassette tape that was called Meditations for Manifestation by Wayne Dyer. And on this cassette, he describes what is called japa meditation, an Eastern form of repetition of sound, and in this case, the vowel sound ah. And he described by practicing this sound and visualizing the sound rising up through the central channel and out the third eye, that our life can become a life of manifesting our wishes, our desires, our highest purpose. And we begin to manage the coincidences of our life. And I began listening to this cassette tape and practicing creating this ah sound, and found myself experiencing a lot of synchronicities, a lot of coincidences, and experiencing somewhat of an acceleration. And I felt like I didn't even need a cell phone. And actually, there was a day when my cell phone dropped into the toilet and it was ruined. And I was like, well, I could either replace my cell phone or I can ride this out and see what would life be like without a phone, and just do this meditation, because I feel so connected to what's around me and the people around me. What would that be like? And I was able to live my life without a phone because I was tapped in and connected to everything. Every being seemed to have just the right thing to say to me, just the right thing to connect me to where I needed to be, where I needed to go. So at this time, I also was introduced to Reiki, energy healing, in one of my holistic health classes taught by Eric Pepper at San Francisco State University. He invited a healer, Murumatsu-san, from Japan to come give a demonstration to our class. And it was the first time that I witnessed firsthand energy healing without touching the body and extracting things from the body and cutting things, and watching immediate results happen. There was one person who received this 5-minute energy healing, and then afterwards he said to the person, "Can you bend over and touch your toes?" And she did. And she got up and said, "Oh my God, I have not been able to do that for the last 8 years since that car accident." And she kind of was confused at what just happened to her, and she went and sat down, and I was sold. And at the end of his presentation, he said, "You do not need to be born with a gift in order to do energy healing. Anyone can learn this. And the most closely related thing to what I do is called Reiki, and anyone can learn this." And so at that moment, I decided that's what I want to pursue. And it wasn't long after that through coincidence, I overheard someone close to me speaking about Reiki, and I asked them, what can you tell me about Reiki? And he actually ended up giving me a folder that had the Reiki symbols in it, which I guess I wasn't supposed to see right away, but maybe I was. And very soon I encountered a teacher nearby who trained me in the art of using the hands to heal and direct universal life force energy. And I began to practice on myself and feel a level of emotional healing that I had never felt before. I had tried going to therapists to talk out my emotional life, to talk out things difficulties that I have with my family and with my mom and all those things. But that never really got deep enough. However, Reiki and just putting my hands on myself and allowing light to flow through me, I would be able to experience the release, the tears, and the resolution, the forgiveness. And I became very passionate about offering this to my friends and family. And a couple months goes by, and I realize as I'm about to graduate San Francisco State, I want to write my thesis paper on sound healing and combine everything that I'm learning about binaural beats and toning, sound, and brain waves, and including Reiki healing. But I didn't get that far. Just 2 weeks before I was supposed to graduate, and right when I was going to begin writing the thesis on paper, I had a severe injury in which I broke 2 vertebrae in my neck, C5 and C7, from a fall. I fell from 2 stories and landed on bricks. And this injury paralyzed me from the neck down. I also was unable to breathe. I was on a respirator. I was completely incapacitated. And what this set in motion was a whole lot of healing. And I'm really grateful for all of the support that I received, the support that I received ahead of the injury and what happened after being injured. My sister and my father sought out my Reiki teacher, and they asked if she could show them how they could help heal me. And they spent one day with her, and then they began putting their hands on me in the hospital as I was unconscious. I didn't regain consciousness for 10 days after this injury. And when I woke up and discovered the condition that I was in, it was very disorienting to not be able to move the body. There's no way to really describe what that's like. We take for granted that our body can move. And until we're paralyzed, we don't really know what it's like to try to move the body and it just doesn't respond. At that level, we're barely a body. We're just a mind. And through the process of being paralyzed, I got to encounter my mind, the quality of my thoughts, and the quality of my emotions, the vibration of thoughts and emotions. And being in that state of crisis, I had to use all the tools that I had available at that time. And so rather than spend my time being worried or in a state of dread, which, believe me, it was very easy to go there, to feel like my life was over. Rather than be in that state, I would choose to not worry, to feel gratitude, and to invoke light, healing light within my body. Meanwhile, receiving healing from the outside, from my father, my sister, my teachers, and many other people working on me at a distance. And trust in these tools. Because I had already seen a miracle performed right before my eyes in school. And I didn't know how I was going to get out of that situation. When I was put in a wheelchair for the first time and brought up to a mirror, and when I saw myself in the mirror as a quadriplegic person, I'm a skinny person. I've always been pretty skinny. But when I was in the hospital, I think I weighed something like 115 pounds, 120 pounds. And to see myself just completely, just without a body and unable to move my hands, my hands were stuck in this position. I didn't know how I was going to get out of that, but I had to trust every moment that I could transform. No matter what the doctors were telling me. And they were basically telling me I would have to live my life completely dependent on other people to live, to eat, to brush my teeth, to bathe, to use the bathroom. Thankfully, I only lived in that condition for a couple months. Every single day in the hospital, little miracles would occur. And the very first miracle, where all the doctors crowded around my bed, was when I could wiggle my big toe on my left foot. That was the miracle, the first miracle. And when there's a spinal cord injury, it's never known how much return a person is going to get, how much movement will return. So I did a lot of physical therapy, just being able to wiggle my legs, learn how to roll over in bed. And learning all of this took so much focus, just to move. And there was a certain point where I was told this after the fact, that my doctor was speaking to my dad in the room, and I was sleeping. And he was telling my dad in this moment, "I'm sorry, Mr. Anziani, your son will probably not be able to use his voice again. It doesn't seem like, based on the way the trach in his neck is, he's not going to be able to have a voice." And in that moment, all I knew is that I woke up and I saw the doctor there, and I said, "Hi, Dr. Shah." And he turned around and he was like, "What? What did you say?" And in my innocence, I just said, "Hi, Dr. Shah." And he looked at me, looked at my dad, and he walked out of the room. I feel I was surrounded by a lot of grace that took me through this time, and I surprised the doctors every single day, to the point where they called me the miracle patient. And that was my nickname in the hospital that I stayed in, Santa Clara Valley Medical Center, an incredible facility for spinal cord rehabilitation. They called me the Superman patient because I healed in a way that they had never seen before. And as soon as I got use of my voice, which at first was just really this raspy whisper, I decided I would try to tone the ah sound that my grandmother had shown me. And even though I could only give a ah, I could feel the vibrations through my body. And I could imagine this body that I am spending every day laying down in bed. This body is just a sack of water. You know, we're primarily water beings. And how water is impacted by sound, the cymatics of creating beautiful geometry, uniformity, harmony, order, coherence. So with all the visualization of Reiki energy, universal life force energy, coming through every cell of my body and intoning ah, and feeling it move through my body, this was part of my healing. This was part of my rapid, accelerated recovery of reanimating my body, to the point where I was able to stand up, to the point where I was able to take my first step again, which was an incredible day. I cried when my physical trainer said to me, "Are you ready to take a step?" Because I didn't even think my body was capable of doing it. And when I took my first step, I took another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. And another physical therapist saw me doing this and said, "Wow, you're doing great. How long you been at it?" And I said, "This is my first time." And she said, "What?" Usually it takes weeks. And after 2.5 months of being in this rehab facility, I walked out of the hospital. And after I walked out, I did sit back down in my wheelchair because it's not like I just started walking around. It took about 1 year of practicing standing and walking around my neighborhood, just walking around the block. But it was this time that was like a deep initiation. While I was in the hospital, this was the first time that mantra came to me, and I really got to practice and understand the potency of mantra. And so the first mantra that was given to me came via one of my cousins who brought a CD that had the Gayatri Mantra. This is a Sanskrit mantra. As it was described on the CD, this is a chant that invokes the vivifying powers of the sun. And some of the results, some of the benefits for a chanter of the Gayatri is sweetness of speech, psychic healing of ailments, among other things. I can't remember right now, but the psychic healing of ailments thing really got me. The state that I was in, I was like, that's what I need. And on this CD, the chant was chanted in the traditional way, 108 repetitions, and it was instructed to chant this in the morning, in the midday, and in the night. And then these benefits would be seen. So this was one of the main sounds that I was exposed to. It was the soundtrack from my healing. At that point, I was just listening to it and hearing it chanting. And then eventually, after a week or two, I was able to chant this mantra on my own, which I'll demonstrate if you have not heard this chant. It sounds like this. Om Bhur Bhuva Sva Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om. And this chant repeats 108 repetitions. These sounds of Sanskrit vibrate and resonate in the body in ways that other languages do not. I find English is a very good descriptive language. We can describe things and communicate them through English, but the vibrational power of English is inferior to the ancient languages, which carry living resonances in nature and in our bodies. In the Hindu tradition, it is understood that there are pathways of energy in the body called nadis. Nadis are these fine, subtle energy circuits throughout the body. It is said that there's 72,000 nadis in the body, and at any given time, some of these nadis are open and functioning and flowing, and some of them are blocked and not flowing. And one of the ways we can access and open our nadis is through chanting, through the vibration of chanting. And so these sounds, Om Bhur Bhuvasva Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yo Na Prachodayat, over and over again, can set off a ripple effect, pathways opening in the body that lead to healing. And for me, it was seen that this healing could not only be spiritual, mental, emotional, but physical. We can transform the physical body through sound, especially when we have the intention, especially when we visualize the perfection, when we visualize our body is healed, is whole, functioning well, which makes us naturally smile. When we smile, there's a vibration that is felt through the body. And on the physical level, chemicals are released that inspire the body to function properly. And the new cells that are being born in every moment carry those instructions. Every single moment, we are being dissolved and reborn anew. And through this process, I literally had a rebirth experience. So this is the story that I told Jill Blakeway, who I was introduced to by my teacher, Eric Pepper. Eric Pepper, I mentioned, he's a professor at San Francisco State teaching Western perspectives of holistic health. And I got in touch with him years after my injury, and I told him, your class changed my life. And I told him my story, and he was like, wow, that's impressive. And since that time, he's invited me to lecture to all of his classes every semester and share my story of healing. And he introduced me to Jill Blakeway, an author who wrote a book, Energy Medicine. And I'm in that book, I think it's chapter 11, entitled The Healer in You. So that's one side of the story. And I've shared this dozens of times now. But here's the other side of the story that I'm inspired to share with you, the Globe Sound Healing audience. And I finally feel comfortable enough to share this part. And I feel like you're the type of audience that can handle and understand what I'm about to share. This healing process I went through, this healing crisis, simultaneously what was happening during this time was I am a walk-in. A walk-in is something that I actually learned about after the fact, but a soul that has agreed to come in, as one soul has agreed to exit, another agrees to come in and transfer into the body to be here on the planet at this time to assist in transformation and evolution. The night before that I had my injury, I had this experience of soul transference. It happened in meditation. As I was meditating, which I would do nightly, I'd set up candles and put on some sound healing music. I had an experience occur that I never had before, and my soul left my body, and my body fell flat on the ground. And when my soul left my body, I had an entire life review. I saw my whole life going sort of in fast forward, and I saw all of the people in my life that I had wronged in some way. And I saw myself then meeting with them face to face, saying, I am sorry. And in this visionary state, the person hugged me. And I felt the feeling of forgiveness. Also in this visionary state, I experienced death of several different types of death that I don't really understand why I experienced these things, but I experienced what it is like to drown, having the lungs fill with water, and I experienced what it is like to be crucified, to be nailed through the wrists. And interestingly, in this state, I experienced being crucified and having a nail driven through my neck. Now, I'm sharing this with you all. I don't know why, but I felt moved that I was supposed to share this because maybe somebody in this audience relates to this experience of dying and then coming back. And when I came back to my body after this experience, there was this knowing that we can heal from anything. And I didn't know that what was going to happen the next day was that I was going to fall and break my neck and be paralyzed and go through this entire transformation. And it was very confusing. And it took over a year to finally meet someone, a healer, who is also a walk-in, that was able to see me and tell me, oh my, your energetics are interesting. There's like one soul that is almost all gone and there's another one coming in. And she mentored me and helped me embody. And she shared with me, your life is all about embodiment. You must embody. And that has been the journey of embodiment. For me, it's been a very physical journey of learning how to use the body again, learning how to walk, learning how to stand. And sound has played such a key role in embodying. So I've studied a lot. I've studied a lot of traditions, chanting, mantra. There are certain codes in the ancient languages that activate, as I said, pathways in the body. So I found a great resonance with Tibetan mantra. In Tibet, there are masters of sound, masters of compassion. And this level of compassion is called bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is the awakened heart, the awakened mind. And we can cultivate the awakened heart and awakened mind through chanting. So some of you may know maybe the world's most well-known mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, which essentially what the mantra means is, may all beings be free of suffering now. You know, there's a literal translation of the mantra, the jewel in the lotus. That's a beautiful literal translation. However, the vibrational meaning, if it has one, it's that prayer. May all beings be free of suffering. May all dimensions be free of suffering. And those are the 6 syllables that come from the divine enlightened mind, the enlightened heart that we all share. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. There are also codes in the Tibetan system of chanting that have this beautiful rhythmic pattern. And I'll share with you one. What I mean is there's sets of syllables that create a rhythm of order, like, for instance, the Refuge prayer, which in Tibetan sounds like this. Sangye chodang sogi chognan la, jangchu bardu dagni kyapsuchi, dagi jin sogi pesunam kye, trola pencher sangye jubarasho. Sangye chodang sogi chognam la, jangchu bardu bagni kapsuchi, dagi jin sogi pesunam kye, trola pencher sangye jubarasho. Sangye chodang sogi chognam la, jangchu bardu dagni kapsuchi, dagi jin sogi pesunam kye, trola pencher sangye jubarasho. So when I chant this, what's happening is, what I feel when I chant this is a peace. There's a deep peace. And in each syllable, there's so many layers of meaning. What this chant means is, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And until I attain enlightenment, I will practice the 6 perfections of generosity, morality, patience, focus, joyful effort, and wisdom, until all sentient beings have attained enlightenment. So when I say the translation in English, it's beautiful, it's poetic, it's deeply meaningful. But when I chant it in Tibetan, and there's these syllables, how many syllables is that? Sangye chodang sogi chognam la. 9. Every line has 9 syllables. And there's the repetition. So you can see how the ancient languages, how the indigenous languages have codes. And in this case, this mantra is an example of a sound code, a sonic code that creates these frequencies. Dun 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 dun. In the sound, even if you don't know the syllables, there's an order, there's harmony. So I'm saying this as just a way of offering how we can structure our mind, and how that also structures our body, our nervous system, to function in order and harmony. So in this time that I have, being able to present to you my story and some teachings, I would like to also share with you about my experience learning in the Peruvian shamanic traditions. After several years had gone by of my healing process, I learned how to walk again. I deeply apprenticed in sound and mantra and chanting and opening my voice and learning the power of the voice. Remember, like I told you, I started with such a whisper of a voice, just and gradually began to have the power return of the voice. So it became more like retraining the voice to have power again. I then encountered teachers that helped me deepen my perspective of what is healing, what is wholeness. And so I met a maestro, Don Oscar Miro Quesada, who is the teacher of what is called the Pachacuti Mesa tradition. And this term Pachacuti, some of you might have heard this term before, many of you probably not. Maybe you know the term Pachamama. Pachamama, this language is Quechua, the language that is spoken in the high Andean mountains in Peru and is spoken in other regions in South America. There's something like 70 or 80 different indigenous languages in Peru. Quechua is one that is being remembered more and is one of these living languages that carries the living essence of what is being named. So, Pachacuti is a Quechua word that means world reversal. World reversal is what we're experiencing right now on the planet. The overturning of a paradigm. We are in the midst of a Pachacuti, a prophesized era of Pachacuti. And within the Pachacuti Mesa tradition teachings, I began to learn how alive nature is, and how there are so many unseen beings. There are many seen beings like the mountains, the trees, the waters, and there are also many unseen beings that we are constantly in relation to. And the foundation of our existence depends on our upholding and maintaining that relationship by making offerings of gratitude, physicalized offerings, ash, tobacco, copal, incense, crystals. And in this act of offering, this is called Aini. The word Aini is really the essence of all shamanic traditions. Aini means sacred reciprocity. And having this relationship of Aini restored is essential in healing. So this all comes together with the concepts of sound and vibration, because when we use our voice, when we're creating sound, indeed, this is an expression of Aini, because sound is a gift. To have a voice, just to have a voice. I lost my voice. The doctors say I wasn't supposed to have a voice. The expression of voice, the expression of creating a tone, is an offering to the universe, to all life in the universe. And when we make a sound, an elongated vowel sound, like that, ah, sine wave, the universe understands that energy. That sound is a sine wave. Our body understands that language. Our nervous system speaks the language of vibration. When I speak these words, if you were to look at what these sounds look like on a spectrometer, and you could see what those vibrations are like, it would look rather chaotic. What I'm saying right now is all these chaotic waveforms, but when I go, ah, it's a perfect sine wave, and the universe understands that. And especially when we have an intention riding on that sound, the universe can respond with that same energy into our lives. So to come full circle again to that story I mentioned about my grandmother chanting the ah sound, being guided with this cassette tape that says when you chant the ah sound, you can manifest and manage the coincidences in your life. We are vibrational beings. And it is our quest to remember that and to live it, to be it. So when I talk to people about sound, when I mentor people about how to live as a vibrational being, I say that voice, the primary use of the voice is to create pure vibration. We speak too much. We talk too much. That's not the first priority of having a voice. The first purpose of having a voice is to create perfect waveforms of sound. That's the easiest way to create balance and harmony in this universe of a body that has billions, trillions of cells, living beings in it, that we give them that gift of harmony. When we use our voice to sing, when we use our voice to tone, it is the perfect medicine for every single cell in our body, because every cell in our body recognizes that voice. So I say that the first priority is to tone perfect sine waves. And then the next purpose of having a voice is to create melody, to sing, to chant. And then we can start talking. So my approach to life as a vibrational being is to live in this way. When I wake up in the morning, what's the first sound utterance that I make? Do I start using language? Or do I intone pure vibrations that I know are the most potent healing medicine that I can offer myself? So I'm very aware of what is the first vibration that I create using this gift of a voice when I awake anew, reborn every single day in the morning. This is helpful to not get wrapped up in the story. We all have a story. We all have our stories of our life, of our trauma, of our struggles, of our projects, of whatever. However, we are vibrational beings first and foremost, and so learning how to live that, remembering how to live that, makes it so much easier to fulfill our purpose and to be the light, to be the beacons of humanity that we need to be right now. So when I look at the time, it feels like I'm getting close to reaching my time. And so I want to take a moment to feel into if there's anything else I want to offer in this presentation. Yes, okay. So one more piece I want to add. I mean, I have a lot of music available online. I have several albums available, so you can hear more of what I'm creating. And singing with people, it's really like, what else am I here to do in this life? What else are we here to do as humanity? We got to sing together. We got to chant together. We got to intone together for our prayers to be heard and be felt and be actualized in this vibrational world we live in. What I want to say that comes through this other lineage that I am connected to, the Dagara, West African tradition. This comes from Burkina Faso and Ghana. we need to remember our ancestors, how deeply our ancestors love us and can play such a role in our lives to help us live our best life, to help open the way for us. The Dagara people, they don't understand how we can live our life separated from our ancestors. How anything can go our way, how we're able to even function without a living connection to the ancestors. The ancestors hear everything. They hear our voice. So when we sing, and especially when we sing songs that our ancestors sang, it gives them strength to be here more and open the way for us. So a big part of what I am here to do is help people remember how to live in such a way that includes the ancestors, because we can't do anything without them. We wouldn't be here without them. We wouldn't exist in this human experience. So learning how to talk to the ancestors. So word, the power of word, learning how to speak and pray in such a way. May the way be open. If I could offer one sentence in the English language that is potent enough to create miracles, to say this phrase, may the way be open. Ancestors, open the way for me in my life to have healing, to have reconciliation with all the people, with all my family. May the earth support me. May the earth support all my relations, and may they be held. Remembering these phrases has been so potent for me in my wholeness, achieving wholeness. I feel when we talk about healing, we're talking about wholeness, and we cannot be whole without these living essences of Pachamama, Mother Earth, and of the ancestors. So may we walk in wholeness, in communion, and in union with all the ancestors. So I thank you for receiving this presentation. I wonder if David can help guide me with any questions to complete this presentation.
Thank you. Your energy and frequency is like that's your note. It's
I
really
find that frequency.
It's actually and I hear the lower octave of it. It's very stable and peaceful. Do you think you had a different rhythm and a different frequency before your accident and before the walk-in?
Somewhat. Interestingly, I was told by my mentor when I learned about that I'm a walk-in, I was told that I had a very, like a high level crossover, that the being who walked out was already at a significant high vibration. And so usually in the walk-in process, um, a person a person might be not vibrating as high, and so and they might have an injury occur. Usually there's some sort of a physical trauma that takes the body offline so that the so that this process can take place. And when they return, they're like a very different person. And then like all the family members are like, "Wow, who are you? Like you're so different. That car accident really changed you." But there wasn't really like a gap. Um, so people weren't really surprised that I went full on into like a path of mysticism and healing. It wasn't that far fetched, but they definitely realized like I'm full on.
Cool. It's funny, your video was frozen when you were talking, and you looked kind of like an alien.
Yeah.
It was kind of interesting. Very tough. As you probably know, when you do the mantras, dum dun 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 dun, dun, that's a brainwave state. You're doing basically binaural beats and then training the brain into that brainwave.
Yes, the original binaural beat, the most organic way.
Right, right. You know, I think the most important message that you're bringing forward, and sounds like you've meant to bring forward, is we have the power to heal ourselves. Right? And it's so not the message in our society with the healthcare system we have. It is exactly the opposite. If you have something going on, you got to call a doctor, right? Or even just get a therapist, right? And the whole deal is to return to that power that we have to heal ourselves. And you are a living, walking example of that.
Yes, and I feel a big part of my purpose is to help activate people in remembering the ways that we all have the technologies to heal ourselves. We just have to be reminded on the ways to do that.
Last year I had a little um, um, a problem with my ear, and I got a homeopathic remedy that my friend gave me to put the oil in my ear, and I went completely deaf.
Hmm.
And as a sound healer, that was like really scary and shocking, right?
Yeah.
So for a full day, I could hear nothing. And it was really interesting because it's similar to what you said. Immediately, at first I was freaked out. And then I thought, I'll just relax and experience this and see what it's like.
Mm.
And it was
Yes.
kind of peaceful, right? In a way. But it was like, that fear of like, oh my God, I won't be able to do my classes anymore. And then last year, I went to the doctor, and actually I had cramps in my leg, and a psychic said, you got to go to the doctor and get a ultrasound. And they said I had a blood clot from my hip to my ankle.
Wow.
And immediately I went into discipline of going, I'm not going to go into fear. I'm going to, this is done, this is taken care of. And now the blood clots are completely gone.
Mm.
And it just seems like the number one thing we could do to change our medical system is the second that anybody gets a diagnosis, they have to go in a room and meditate on everything is perfect.
Yes. Ooh. I
Right?
like that.
it's like so critical, because the fear is what kills people, or at
Yes.
least makes them not whole.
Yes, and doctors have such authority. When we see a doctor and they have their uniform and a clipboard, and they're telling you, the nightmare of this is going to be your reality,
Right.
that can be imprinted, and then we replay that message over and over. And I realized at a very early stage, when my doctors were saying you're going to be quadriplegic, and I actually I spoke out loud, I'm going to walk out of here. And they said to me, they said, no, you shouldn't think that way. You should really just focus on being a good quadriplegic. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to talk to these people anymore about what I'm seeing, because I know I'm seeing the future, and I'm just going to prove them wrong. And then every time they would say things like that, I would just like let it go right through me and come back to the visualization. But not everyone has the wherewithal to do that, and we're very sensitive beings, and our minds and our thoughts are really powerful.
Right. It's funny, my brother has 4th stage prostate cancer, and I talked to him last month, and he said, well, on average people die in 2 years from this, so I figure I got 2 years. And I'm like, oh my God, I had blood clot from my hip to my ankle, and like people calmly, die of that easily, right? And it's like, instead of, okay, I'm not going to look at the statistics. I'm going to set my intention and know we have the power.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, we need each other so much, because I got to say, having people around to support healing it's integral to the healing process. Community and reflecting to people like their wholeness is really helpful.
I loved it. I talked to Bev in Mount Shasta, who's got the crystal room up there, and I told her I had blood clots, and she goes, I already see it gone. No big deal. And I was like, I love you, It's like, I love that type of community.
Yes. Yeah, my father was saying the same things to me. He was like, you are already healed, and your body's just going to catch up to it, but you're already healed.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for your talk and your presence.
Thank you, David. It was great to speak with you, and just get to have this moment. And thank you all for taking this in and receiving.
Let me go ahead and play the closing video here. Take care.
This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in unity consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.